a young man who's been in our residential care in our home for a number of years. He's one of the first kids that came into the programme. And Kareem is kind of a minor celebrity where we live in Bantamakely because he's an exceptional soccer player. He's really, really gifted at that. But what he's also gifted is with real leadership quality. The boy beside him is called Henry Tower. Whenever the children lived in Freetown, which was the capital city in Sierra Leone, Henry, he was a little boy, and his family broke up. And as the family broke up, the mother, Auntie Annie, she was left to care for her 4 children on her own, without a job to do that with. There's Henry, there's his older sister Ake, there's Christiana, and there's Jacob. And Auntie Annie had to try and look after all of these kids. So Henry's job in this, to try and help the family survive, get food on the table, was he would try and sell kerosene. So he'd put kerosene that people use in Sierra Leone for lanterns and cooking, put it on his head, he'd walk the streets of Freetown trying to sell some kerosene. And then one day he walked past where our children used to live in Freetown, which is where Kareem was. And he was standing with his kerosene on his head, and he saw these boys playing football. And he just, playing soccer, I always make that mistake, playing soccer. And he stood, Henry stood with his kerosene and he watched the boys playing soccer. And Kareem saw him just standing there and he said, come and play with us. And then they played their game, and then after they played their game, Kareem said, come and have lunch with us. And just with that simple action, and I want you to pay very great attention to what that simple action was, this simple action of giving food to Henry changed not just his life, but the life of his whole family. Because what happened the next day was, whenever Henry was supposed to be selling kerosene, Henry went back to play football with Kareem and had lunch again. And then the next day when he was supposed to be selling kerosene, he went back and played football, soccer, with Kareem and had lunch again. And whenever Henry tells a story, he laughs about it because this was the moment where his kerosene business went through the floor. And but what's wonderful is that a lady who worked for Children of the Nations saw this boy coming, and she took interest in him and asked him, bring your mum tomorrow, come back with your mother. So Auntie Amy came the next day and she talked to him. Auntie Amy said, is there anything I could do? Is there any work that you could have me do if I come here? And there wasn't really any paying work going at that time, but she organised an arrangement with some of our staff that she would come, she would do a little bit of cooking, she would do some laundry for the children, and at the end of the day, she would go to the cooking pot and she would scrape the bottom of it, she would put it in a bag, and she would go home. And with that food, she could feed Christiana, she could feed Jacob, she could feed Henry, and she could feed Ake every single day. And whenever the kids talk, whenever the Tower families retell their story and this part of their story, they start to laugh a lot because their mother was worried that the country director of Children of the Nations would find out about this sort of private arrangement she had with some of the staff, and she would say, this isn't appropriate, you should probably go home now. So what she would do would be, she would creep in the gate and she would see if the country director, who's this lovely lady called the Reverend Angie Miles, but to you and me, she's Mummy Angie. She's a lovely lady, but Auntie Amy was scared that she would be caught out. And so there was one day when Mummy Angie was walking around, so Auntie Amy hid in a room and covered herself in some coats so that she couldn't be seen. And whenever the Tower family get to that point in the story, they all fall around and laugh at their mummy. But what Mummy Angie had noticed her, she pretended for a while she hadn't seen her, just to see what she was doing and to pay attention to what she was doing. And then she called her to her office and she said, I have a job for you. And she gave her a job cooking for the kids, and it was a paying job. And shortly after that, the kids started to come to our school in Marjoritown in Freetown. And then 6 years ago, when we moved all of our residential kids out to a place called Bantamakely, which is a rural area where there was more space for the kids to grow and develop, the Tower family came with us as well. And a simple action of making food and sharing it with someone who needed it changed the lives of this whole family. And I want to show you another picture, and the next picture is of the whole family. And what's exciting is that it didn't just stop at food. It became a deep relationship. And so on the left here you've got Henry, there's Ake, who's his older sister, and then Jacob, and then Christiana, and then Auntie Annie. And Auntie Annie continues to work in our children's village, and they're all in school with us. Henry and Ake are seniors, and we're excited to see right now they're sitting their exams to see what's going to happen, if they can qualify to go to some kind of tertiary institution next year. And Jacob and Christiana are also both in high school. And what's exciting is that Karim did this simple action of sharing his food, because he knows what it's like to be hungry. He has been hungry too, and he didn't want that for Henry, and none of us do. And that's why I'm really excited about today, to see where this simple act of sharing food, what will God do with our simple act today. And what's really exciting is that you're not making food for these faceless Africans, these Africans we hear about. You're making food for Massa, you're making food for Karim, you're making food for the Tower family. And what we're excited about talking to you more about today is how you can take your simple act of kindness of sharing food and go deeper with these children. And that's why we want to talk to you about sponsorship. That's why we have some information over here about sponsorship, and we want to challenge you to think, how can this simple act of kindness go deeper? And so please come and talk to me or any of the guys in the team here with us today about how to sponsor one of these children.